let's be honest, England have got some problems when it comes to selecting their squad ahead of a Rugby World Cup later this year. I've got 5 solutions for Steve Borthwick, 5 players that are currently off the radar that I think could make a massive difference to the England squad. I would love to know which players you think Steve Borthwick should be looking at that he currently isn't. We have got 4 World Cup warm-up games. There is still time. So tell me in the comments. And while you're there, hit subscribe on the channel. I'm Tim. This is Egg Chasers. And the first position that is an issue for England is tight head prop. Dan Cole, the Kohler Bear, he has done a job stepping in off the bench in place for Carl Sinclair, who has been improving back to form we know he's capable of. But I'm not sure, and Will Stewart will come back into the reckoning, but I'm not sure that is strong enough. There was very little impact off the bench during the Six Nations. And I will say that had he not got injured, I would have been saying Fraser Balmain is one of the players that should be in the England squad. He's had a brilliant season for Gloucester, cut short through injury, which is such a shame for him because I think he would have been a real contender for an England World Cup spot. But there we go. Without Fraser Balmain and assuming he's not going to get back fit anytime soon, then I would say that a player Steve Borthwick should be having a look at, Bialo, who was at Wasps, and due to the demise of Wasps, them going under, he went to Racing 92, where he is getting game time in a squad that has incredible scrummaging Georgians and South African World Cup winning tight head props in the squad. And this guy is getting minutes, and he's doing well when he does. And there are not many English tight head props that would be able to say that. So he's mixing it up in the top 14 at one of the toughest no, not even one of, the toughest place to do your day-to-day job as a prop in the top 14 in France. This guy is doing it. He, more than that, isn't just a set-piece prop, much like Fraser Balmain and, like Carl Sinclair. He has more to his game than that. Bialo is really good at the breakdown. He's a good ball carrier. He's 130 kilograms. Steve Borthwick, have a look at this guy. And just in the same way as Jack Willis has been brought into the squad, because even though he's playing his rugby outside of England due to exceptional circumstances, the same can justify having a look at this guy. So there you go. Bialo. Get him involved in the summer. Next position, that is a bit of an issue, is hooker. And this is partly Eddie Jones' doing, not a lot of depth, because he's given basically nobody besides Luke Cowan-Dickie and Jamie George any game time over the last few years. We saw Jack Walker have some time during the Six Nations. Again, I don't know if Steve Borthwick totally trusts him. Didn't give him a lot of minutes, and he didn't seem to have a huge impact. Good club player, very good player in general, but didn't have a huge impact on the international stage. And I think so. As a result, it's going to be Jamie George and Luke Cowan-Dickie. Hopefully, George McGuigan will be back and fit, but we don't know. Hopefully, Jack Singleton will be back and fit, but we don't know. If those two aren't available, then I think we need to be looking for an alternative third choice hooker. And the World Cup warm-up games are a chance to have a look at Dan Frost, another former Wasps player who's now at Exeter Chiefs and is in he played in the European Cup quarter-final winning team against Stormers. He started for Exeter in the absence of Luke Cowan-Dickie. And I think he's got a lot about his game to love. Very explosive, real fast twitch kind of player, and the kind of guy you could imagine if he played off the bench in a big game, he could come on and make an impact. And for the same reason, I just cannot fathom why England coaches haven't had a look at Harry Thacker. So I think one of these guys, I mean, personally, I'd go for Harry Thacker, but I just wanted to mention Dan Frost because he's doing it at the highest club level you can right now in the Champions Cup. But Harry Thacker, what was it Nick Mullins in his commentary described him as all those years ago? Stocky little dumper truck. He is all action all the time. And yes, he may not be 6 foot and 18 stone, but he's not small and he offers so much. So, maybe I'm naive and Steve Borthwick knows what he's doing when it comes to set pieces, and there's lots of it. I mean, it was the same with Eddie Jones before that, but I just cannot understand why he's at least not being looked at, because his upsides, the things he can do so well, and this is partly, you look at guys like Dane Coles in New Zealand and the impact he's had, and Cody Taylor, and Harry Thacker's in that mould, and I think sometimes in England we look at players and judge them on what they can't do or what they don't have, rather than celebrating the thing that makes them unique and makes them brilliant and their superpower. And Harry Thacker's superpower is it is explosive, all action, pops up in wide channels, brilliant rugby player. So I'd have a look at one of those two over Jack Walker, personally. Next position, scrum half, and it's Harry Thacker's teammate, Harry Randall. Now, Jack Van Portfleet's been given the 9 jersey, and I think kind of we're sort of stuck with that now till after the World Cup, because he's had the whole Six Nations, and he had good moments. He's got a lot to learn, and I'm sure he'd be the first to say that. There's things about Jack Van Portfleet I really like. I'm not sure he's elite. Could he get there? Yeah, potentially. I want Alex Mitchell to get more game time, but I'm picking 5 players who are out off the radar currently, who I would bring back in or bring in, and Harry Randall is one of those. I really, really like him as a rugby player, and I think the speed he puts on the ball, much like Alex Mitchell, would change the dynamic of how England play. So there you go. There's 3 players so far, if you count Harry Thacker and Dan Frost bundled up as one solution to the hooker situation. The next player, Val Rapava Ruskin. Absolutely cannot understand why he's not been involved. He's injured now, and hopefully he will be back and available. But again, much like B. Allo, this guy's 130 kilograms, absolutely massive, and yet he's always involved during the game. I sometimes wonder whether his body language holds him back, because just when you look at him, he's quite a strange guy. I think quite a unique character, but I think sometimes he gets judged because he sort of lollops around a little bit. But that's just his demeanour. Actually, when you look at the work he does, phenomenal loose head prop. And England, well, we've got quite a few loose head props. I just think he's a difference maker. So I would absolutely have him involved. So who have we got so far? A tight head prop, Biallo, would have been Fraser Balmain. Hooker, Dan Frost or Harry Thacker. Scrum half, Harry Randall. Loose head prop, Val Rapava Ruskin. And finally, the number 1 player that has to be involved in a Steve Borthwick England squad and could be a massive difference maker for England during a Rugby World Cup. Cannot believe he hasn't been involved up to this point with Steve Borthwick. Tom Pearson of London Irish, a wrecking ball of a back row player, can play right across the back row and just has elite potential. You can see it in some players. I know you can argue, and I agree actually, that there is such a thing as a test match animal, and that just looking at players because they play well for their club doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be good in an England jersey. I've got absolute confidence that this guy is one of those players that every level he steps up to, much like Tom Curry did a few years ago, every level Tom Pearson steps up to, he meets the challenge and exceeds what is expected of him. He's a big, big lad. And I just think when you're looking maybe for that extra back row player in the squad, I think he's going to be competing with a few people, or should be competing with a few people for a spot. I just worry because he hasn't been involved in the Six Nations. It may be too late, and Steve Borthwick, because it's a relative area of strength for England with Jack Willis and Tom Curry, and well, Alex Dombrandt's been involved, and Lewis Ludlam and Courtney Laws. Find some space for this guy, please. This guy is a difference maker. There's my 5 positions. I know 6 players because I've put the 2 hookers together, and a little mention for Fraser Balmain that's injured. But what do you think to those? And what do you think? What would your 5 be? Let me know in the comments. Tell me what you think of mine. Give me yours, and maybe it can form part of a future video. I really appreciate you watching. If you haven't already, I hope this has earned your subscription and that you're enjoying the videos in the channel. That little notification bell, the like button, the comment, and the subscription is ways that you can show your appreciation. Nice one, and I'll see you on the next video.